Regan Deering, thanks for joining us on the Illinois Channel. And we're taping this interview about 24 hours before Election Day. So you've been on the campaign trail for, I would imagine, over a year. I'll get into some of those details and some of the issues that you're running on. But let me first bring up a graphic of a recent poll by CBS News that showed independent voters were overwhelmingly saying that America today is going in the wrong direction. 82% telling CBS News that things were going badly in America. And that's obviously a very troubling, if you're a Democrat, I would say a very troubling poll. A lot of Republicans, of course, I would expect are going to vote for you. A lot of Democrats, hardcore Democrats, will vote for your opponent. But for those independent voters, tell us, if you would, what is the last-minute pitch here, the day before Election Day, as to why those independent voters or disaffected Democrats, why should they vote for you?
Well, I think that everywhere that we're traveling on the campaign trail, we are talking to voters about what matters to them. And that's regardless of what party you're in. We have found ourselves having great conversations with people who are Republicans or Democrats or independents who are just frustrated with the economic situation of today. One party rule in Washington is certainly leading to record high inflation and skyrocketing crime. We have a wide open border. And these are concerns that are affecting families right here in Central Illinois. So to see that graphic about independent voters being disenfranchised with the Democratic rule in Washington is not surprising to me. And I think that they're going to come out to vote for Republicans and work towards a change, knowing they want their representatives to be good listeners, take their concerns to Washington. Central Illinois is my home. My husband and I are raising our family here, and we know what our priorities are as well. So in entering this race and entering politics, I really come from a place of wanting to represent the people here in Central Illinois and take their concerns and fight for them in Washington.
James Carville, back in 1992, 30 years ago, famously said it's the economy, stupid. And again, it's the economy this election primarily. We see in poll after poll, it's inflation, the price of food, the price of gasoline, crushing the middle class. And the Democrats over the years have said they're fighting for the little guy, but the policies of the Biden administration have obviously led to so much of this inflation and their war on fossil fuels. Are there any specific policy solutions that you think would bring some relief for middle-class families?
Well, I think we certainly need to stop the reckless spending first and foremost. Congress and their disapproval rating is probably a direct result of them just having an open checkbook and continuing to pump money into this economy, which bipartisan experts suggested would lead to record high inflation, and here we are. So certainly stopping the spending is going to be one of our first steps, but I think we have a great opportunity in focusing on creating great jobs back here at home, as well as focusing on American energy independence instead of going out and begging foreign nations for oil. Joe Biden made it very clear very early on in his candidacy and obviously well into his administration that he was going to do away with the fossil fuel industry. He was just here in Illinois this past weekend, and a viral clip going around is him talking about wind and solar energy coming online, and he was going to take off the coal factories. So it's good he stayed up in Chicago, because I think he would have been run out of town down here in central and southern Illinois, where those are good paying jobs. And we know that we've got a winter coming. We've got policy out of the Pritzker administration as well that is leading to record high utility rates, and those heating bills are going to be way higher starting here in the next couple of weeks. And people are tired of having an administration that doesn't seem to be working for them. So some of those solutions, obviously, talking with a number of small businesses here, we've got to reduce the red tape and the regulations, need to focus on pro-growth tax policy so they can continue to hire and reinvest in our communities. So these are all solutions that Republicans are working towards. We hope to have some bipartisan efforts and just get making progress for our families.
The other thing I would say is as we elect, and the district has been redrawn, so who's ever elected in the 13th will be the first person to represent the current map. And it is going to almost assuredly have the Republicans take over the majority. You're running as the Republican. If you're elected, you'll be part of the majority party. It goes to say that if you want someone fighting for your district, it certainly helps to have someone be in the majority versus the minority, because as a member of the minority, you're not going to have your bills heard or get them passed out of the committee that you serve on. For those who are unfamiliar with your background, you've never run for office before, so why don't you tell us a bit about who is Regan Deering, so they have an idea of who you are and what values you would bring to the table.
Well, thank you for that question. You're right. I am a first-time candidate, and I think in this environment, voters are looking for elected officials that have had real-world experience and want to bring those kind of job titles before along with them to make sure that we're creating good policy and spending our taxpayer dollars well. I was a biology graduate from Duke University and went on to get my master's degree from DePaul University in education, and so I became a science teacher for a number of years. When we moved back to Decatur, after having our first child 17 years ago, I opened a franchise tutoring center and was able to create jobs here in Decatur as well as Springfield through our public school system, as well as provide a service for families in Decatur. And so I've known what it's like to feel the tax burden and feel the overregulation to make payroll. And so having those experiences has allowed me to earn the endorsement of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce as well as the NFIB. And so I have that commitment to going and working for our small businesses, which are of course, a huge economic driver here in central and southern Illinois. And then over the last 10 years, I have been working in my community. I've had a number of volunteer board positions, primarily serving through Northeast Community Fund, which is a nonprofit in Decatur that serves primarily as a food pantry, but also offers a number of emergency dollars for things like utility assistance and rent relief, work clothes, prescription drugs. So I know what is happening on the front lines here in Central Illinois. My husband and I are raising our family and living and working and advocating for our community. So I'm prepared to go to Washington and make sure that the values that we have right here in Central and Southern Illinois are heard loud and clear in DC.
How long have you been on the campaign? When did you start your campaign?
So we kicked off this campaign in January. So just over 10 months now, we've been out meeting voters across this district. We've got a variety of industries, a lot of urban areas, a lot of rural areas, obviously a big farming communities, a lot of medical institutions. I have a lot of higher education. And everywhere we go, we are making a commitment to listening to people, talking about what's a priority for them, celebrating the successes. I have been invited into a number of businesses, both small and large, to know what's on their mind and how they want to continue to, be an economic driver and play a key role in their community's growth. So I know that going to Washington, I've already created those relationships and the groundwork for being able to get right to work.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say I also had sought the nomination. You were the victorious candidate, but for the viewers, if they don't know. So I'll admit my bias that I was seeking the Republican nomination. That said, I find it's hard work. It's a grueling exercise for the candidates, and I have long said how much I appreciate people who bother to go out and do this because you're away from home. It's one event after another. You're traveling the district. On the other hand, I would also say the 13th district, and you've kind of touched on this, is an interesting district. For those who don't know the 13th, it starts along the Mississippi down by St. Louis, so you have some of St. Louis urban areas. In fact, that's the largest urban area in Illinois outside of the Chicagoland area. A lot of colleges. You have the U of I over in Champaign-Urbana area. Other colleges scattered throughout the district, and of course, as you say, a lot of farming ground. So a real cross-section in this district. Is there anything, before we let you go, that as you have been on the campaign trail, really kind of sticks out with you? Sometimes when you're out there and you're talking to the people, you hear something that kind of leaves an impression on you as a candidate, maybe more than some of the other conversations. I'm just curious if you can recollect anything that really stood out in your mind as you talk to voters.
Well, I think every single day I'm reminded that the great people of Illinois want a representative that is going to work for them. We have so much more in common than we do apart. I refuse to believe that bipartisanship is dead. And obviously, this district was mapped by the Democratic controlled legislature in Springfield for a Democrat. But I think that these values that we have here in central and southern Illinois deserve to be heard in Washington. And being a native here locally and having lived here locally, I know what those issues are. I will continue to push for good legislation, good use of our taxpayer dollars, as I want to see as a resident here in Decatur. And so I really think that most people are just looking for someone who can take some common sense to Washington, can continue to put America first and help grow our economy, help make sure that we're living in a safe community, making sure that our government is accountable. I had one gentleman tell me yesterday that he really just doesn't trust his government, and that is heartbreaking to me. And what that means is we need more representatives that are just sort of stepping away from their everyday life. As you mentioned, being on the campaign trail is a real challenge, but it's good work. And our founders originally intentioned for our citizens to go and work for the country, and that's what I intend to do as well. So it's my honor to go out and meet voters every single day, and I continue to ask people for their vote and would love to serve as the next Congresswoman for Illinois 13.
Regan Deering, so good. I know you're busy day before Election Day, but thanks so much for joining us on the Illinois Channel, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thanks so much, Terry.
Take care.